Miami Hurricanes head coach Mario Cristobal offered these warnings to his players and to all of us.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC, and writer for Canes County at Rivals. Happy Monday, if there is such a thing. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On this loaded episode, we're going to talk about another big recruiting weekend coming up. Miami's having that pool party at Cristobal's house this weekend. Giddy up. We'll talk about practice standouts over the weekend, who really grabbed and seized their opportunities this past Saturday. But speaking of that, let's talk a little bit here about Mario Cristobal and the warning that he offered to his players and to media and fans and all of us. But let's welcome in our boy Blue, Larry Blustein from Prep Red Zone, Florida. Blue was out at the practice this Saturday. Larry, I know you keep very busy this time of year and every time of year. I hope you're well, sir.
Yeah, I am. But, a lot of times people ask me about, what I think about what's going on. And if you're not there, you can't see. So
right.
I had a minute or two to get down there and watch. And a lot of observations.
Yeah, we'll talk about Blue's takeaways. But here, I thought this was among some of the powerful things that head coach Mario Cristobal said on Saturday. There has been, and I'm probably guilty of much of this, there's been a lot of hype trickling out about certain players, especially players that, haven't really proven it yet at the collegiate level consistently. You think about the wide receiver position, right? Miami lost almost all of their production at wideout from last year. And so in the meantime, we're seeing some really impressive flashes in practice from a guy like JoJo Trader. Carr is practicing really well. Mario Cristobal was asked about these guys, and I thought, listen to Cristobal's words here, and I thought this is pretty powerful in terms of getting your message out there and trying to adjust everyone's expectations.
I see a lot of ability, and I see flashes, and I see guys that need a ton of work. That's what I see. I see guys that need to get pushed, and we're going to push them. They don't have a problem getting pushed, but now when you have to be the guy, it's different, right? And so we have a ways to go. We're not consistent enough. We make some spectacular splash plays, and then other times it's a little bit head scratching, and that's okay. That's part of growing up, and that's part of maturing. But we're going to pour on them. I myself am on them really, really hard because that's ball, right? There's no kind and cuddly way to prepare for this stuff, and sometimes it's important that you choose the right words when coaching players, because so many times they get on Twitter and they read about how great they are and or how great people think they are, and that's not it. They have to earn everything that they get to display on the field on a daily basis, and that's going to be hammered home. And so, and I hope they hear this too. They need to. So I'm going to be all over their butts.
So that's a warning to those players, Blue, and it's also a warning to all of us, right? Flashing at times, but having a ways to go, needing to find consistency, and also not going on social media and reading about how great you are and getting a big head about it.
Well, he's got some great points, obviously, but, I think they understand now what they're, this is a whole different level, of football that they're at now than they were in high school, and everybody was kind of feeding their ego, and that could stop real quick. And, you got to say things like that, and you've got to be, up front, but at the same time, these kids are a lot smarter. If they're in this program for any length of time, they kind of they know the drill by now. And here's the thing. They need their ego stroked, but at the same time, let's keep it, at a level. Carr is going to be really good. but he the guy that's going to come in and catch 90 balls for 1,400 yards and 20 touchdowns. The expectations may be there, but the reality's not. And that's what he's trying to do, is he's trying to temper their enthusiasm, and we're all guilty of it. Like you said, you talk about a kid like, and we'll get into it in a few minutes, but, to me, a guy that I think that's going to make huge progress because he has to is Ray. I think that here's a kid that you look in this little scrimmage time that he played the other day, had some great catches. He gets in the open now. He knows how to separate. And I talked a little bit to Kevin, about his progress, and what type of player he could be. But that's the guy to me that may start deserving a little bit of that pub, and it's not stroking his ego, but ensuring him that he's going to be looked upon. It's his third year in this system. So, guys like that, to me, you look at somebody like Akeem Messidor, and I think this kid is the heart and soul. This guy, he comes to play. He's worked hard. He came back when he didn't have to. And, guys like that, those guys who warrant that type. And I understand what he's saying about JoJo Trader and some of the younger kids. They really haven't proven anything. Their expectations are there, and they've got that past high school experience and dominating at that level. But as you said, this is a whole different ballgame right now.
I think it's about understanding how great you can be, but respecting the amount of work that it takes to really get there. I think that's how I'd sum up that message. Now, Blue, the other message that Cristobal talked about that I thought was powerful, but it was also very revealing, because this is not necessarily the conventional way that people look at leadership. So Mario was asked about what he wants to see from leaders, because Miami obviously lost a bunch of leaders from last year's team. Guys like, of course, Cam Ward, Xavier Restrepo, Jalen Rivers were, some of the most important leaders. But when Cristobal talked about leadership, he said something that was interesting to me, that in his mind, the idea of leadership by example, he referred to that as BS, that's just about, working hard and staying quiet. Cristobal wants his guys not only to work hard, Blue, but to also be vocal, to hold your teammates accountable. So, I've always kind of, what I learned in business school, for what that's worth, is, hey, there are different ways to lead, by example, whatever. But to Mario Cristobal, there's only one way to lead: actions and words, not one or the other. Oops, sorry, you still there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I heard you. You dropped out for a second. I agree with what you said 100%. But he has to say this stuff, especially this time of year, Alex. We're in spring, and to me, and I said this to a lot of the coaches when I was down there the other day, and I think this is poignant to bring out, is spring is so valuable now. New faces, a whole different deal, and I was, it's not highly critical, but I'm highly vocal in the Carson Beck situation, where last year you had somebody like Cam Ward who established himself and established his new surroundings in the spring. He addressed everything with his receivers. They got a lot of things off their chest and say, listen, I like my receivers to do this and that. Beck's not having that opportunity right now. In fact, he's kind of far removed from the everyday type of, situations. And he's got experience, but he had it at Georgia. There's a whole new surroundings for him. And I think this could be a little bit of an issue, because, this is going to put a lot of work on him in August in preparation for the opening game against Notre Dame. But he's, in addition to preparing, he's also got to acclimate himself to this new surroundings. He could be here all he wants, but if he's not driving the car, so it's a whole different situation. And I think you look at the secondary, and there were so many guys that are out. And that's not a great thing. Patterson's, it was hurt. You had guys like O.J. Federic hasn't been practicing. And I think that continuity, especially at a position, was easily the weakest part of the entire team last year. You got to have some continuity, and you got to have those guys. Now, you look at Brantley and you look at Poyster and some of those guys like that, and you feel good because they've got the experience, but they don't have the experience in this situation. And that was my whole thing. It's not doubting the talent that they have, because they have a lot of talent, but it's doubting the chemistry. And let's see what could happen. You're putting all these new guys together, but this was a time like last year during the spring that you need to work with those guys.
Well, and this is why I'm going to lean on Blue, because Blue was able to watch the full practice on Saturday. I cannot wait to hear who stood out and what went down at Green Tree. My friends, we have the great Larry Blustein with us. You want to keep it locked. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Guys, I'm only getting started with 5 Hour Energy. I got an extra pep in my step today, thanks to the delicious blue raspberry that I consumed this morning. Yeah, daylight savings snuck up on us again. If you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, still, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through it. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, we've all been doing that, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day. 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Guys, whether I'm at a game or traveling, 5 Hour Energy is easy to grab, and it keeps me feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Or if you need one right now, grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized with 5 Hour Energy. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack and I will have a new episode coming out tonight, talking some NCAA tournament. Duke is the only hope left for the ACC. We'll talk some football and spring practices as well, available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. So we're talking with our boy Blue, Larry Blustein, Prep Red Zone, Florida, 560 WQAM as well. We'll talk about a show a little bit later on. But, Blue, being out there, you mentioned you don't really know what's going on unless you're out there taking it in firsthand. So you got to take in some firsthand action at the U, Green Tree, and the IPF on Saturday. What were some of the biggest things and maybe some of the players who stood out to you?
Well, I'll tell you what, and I've said this over and over again, and I related this to Coach Mirabal the other day. This offensive line's big time. I mean, big time. I watched them. I watched them go through the drills. I watched them during, during the pseudo scrimmage. They had the shells on. I thought it was supposed to be a full scrimmage, but
yeah, I thought so too. Yeah.
Technically, I mean, you get more of an appreciation what a great coach that Alex Mirabal is when you're watching a lot of these guys and talking to some of the kids that I know, like Ryan Rodriguez and, people that I've followed for a long, long time, to see some of that offensive line, they've got, guys that'll probably most likely over the next couple of years be first round draft choices. I mean, or right there, because you've got that type of offensive line. Mawanoa's a beast. Okunlolo's a beast. I think that Bell, people don't realize for a man that large, I mean, to bend the way he does, to be as athletic as he is. So that was my real first takeaway. I said to myself, you know what? No matter who they have running the ball, and they've got dudes, it's just they got to keep them healthy.
Yeah.
The quarterback situation and the running back, at least you have an offensive line. And I always kind of hearken back to you and I about 2-3 years ago, probably 3 years ago, when we were talking about how the offensive line never afforded the running game to even get a yard or two. They were being pushed back. Ain't happening no more. I watched them the other day. They fire out. They pass protect extremely well. They got great feet. Their work in the weight room has been just phenomenal. But the thing is you could be big and strong all day you want, but if you don't have it technically, and that's where I think that people don't understand what a great teacher that Alex Mirabal has been. And I had a nice discussion with him, and I always tell him how proud I am of him because he's at a high level and he's doing it at a high level. And arguably Miami going in may have the most complete offensive line in the country. And that's not, what about this? Yeah, but Miami's got a lot of people back intact. See, and that's the thing that work together. A lot of the other teams are, bringing in kids. Miami really hasn't brought in much on the offensive line is because they had stuff coming back. I mean, they've got a lot of depth that they're curing now. They've got all these kids that they brought in, this new class that the class that arrived here in January. I mean, you have the kid like Campbell, who's a big kid at 6'6" out of Orlando Christian Prep. So to me, if you ask me what part of that team stood out, I think the offensive line, definitely. Then I went to the defensive line and looked at, the trenches, and here's Bain, put on some good weight, strong. As I mentioned, Messidor, I love the guy. I mean, like I said, he didn't have to come back. He could probably have tested the waters and done well at the next level. But I think he knew he needed to work a little bit more on a few things because after this year he's going to be a draft pick because of the fact he's strong and he's big and he's very athletic. And then, you go to the linebacking core, a place where you still have some injuries. And that's going to be a place where a lot of jobs are going to be taken. You better watch out. I mean, if you don't bring your A game, because there's a lot of younger guys that are coming in now off of the last two classes that are hungry and they want playing time. And, and Wesley's put on some good weight. I saw Wesley in the food line and he was assuring me that he put on 28 pounds or so. And
we saw him a couple of weeks ago. He's definitely put on, and it looks like quality weight too.
Yeah,
it's not around the spare tire. It's in the arms and in the upper body and the legs and all that good stuff.
But you keep in mind there's some really good athletic linebackers that they brought in, the Pruitt kid and players like that are more than ready to kind of step up and and take their place there, because it's not like anybody last year. That was another weak spot. Kiko Mawanoa didn't have anywhere near the year he had before. You had Popo, Gary, who was hurt most of the year, but I think that's somebody, and the McConaughey kid from on the outside. I think those are two guys that if they stay healthy, they're going to get more than their snaps. So on the defensive side, which is more of a concern because you bring back some really good bodies on offense with a lot of potential at receiver, as you mentioned. Nobody that you could just start, say, this guy's going to take his place. They have potential to do it. Definitely, but they haven't. So defensively, I was, spent a lot of the time looking and watching and when they put it all together, I think the coaching you could see, especially up front now, you have a coordinator who is not going to sit back. He's going to say what's on his mind. And he did the other day. I was watching him during a couple of the drills, where he was saying, listen, I told you twice, and when you have that type of tone, when, he's already told you where to be. Because as well as I do, a lot of times in coaching, the coaches coach up Monday through Thursday, Friday, and they tell you where to be. So come Saturday, they can't be there for you. So that's what he's trying to emphasize. Listen, we Coach Taylor put you over here for a reason, or, whoever it is, the coaches, put you in this position reading that play. And if you're not there, it can't come down on them. It's got to come down on you. And that's where I like that type of coaching, you know. I mean, and I know Coach Cristobal loves that type of coaching. You got to be accountable, because if you're told things 2 and 3 times and then you don't react, that's your fault. That's not the coach's fault. That's your fault. Coaches get blamed for it. But in reality, you watch a lot of times, Alex, and you see an insight to the game because you've been around it. You know, and talking to Don Bailey Jr. the other day, you know, during a lot of the, you know, I kind of stand next to him a couple of times because I like to hear his observation on, you know, how things are going from his standpoint. Because he's there probably more than anybody. He's there more than the players are.
Yeah.
So
he takes in every second of it.
Yeah, and you know, talking to somebody like him and getting his insight on what he thinks, and you know, I mean, yeah, he bleeds green and orange, but at the same time, he understands the reality. And this is somebody who sat through what we sat through on that offensive line a couple of years ago. And you know how, if it bothered us, how much it really bothered him, being, you know, somebody that's played that position. And, but yeah, you know, he seems to agree with what I tell him about the, you know, what I think about the line play. And yeah, it's good. But like I said, the only thing that kind of like bothers me, and I say it, I mean, is the fact that, you know, I mean, everybody's talking about what a difference Carson Beck's going to make, and he probably will.
Yeah, sure.
But this is when you need to see it. You know, the 440 yards, 4 touchdowns spring performance by Cam Ward last year kind of got everybody through June and July, right? I mean, everybody couldn't wait till August. But right now, all you're going to hear in June and July is, you know, the quarterback position didn't blow me away, and we didn't get a chance to see Beck. You know, and that's one of the things that's going to, because I watched, you know, and Emery's nice, and you know, the other quarterbacks are nice, but they're not what Miami, you know, needs to get to win 9-10 games this year. Not right now.
Just so people know, people are asking, Miami has a pro day coming up in a few hours, I think around 2:30, 3 p.m. And of course, Cam Ward will be involved. Actually, I saw Cam Ward's mother and father. I saw them at practice on Saturday. I think Ward was doing something else, but his parents were out there, had a nice chat with Calvin and Patrice. And, you know, Ward is going to be in action, you know, today at Pro Day. There will be coverage for people asking. I think it's going to be on TV. I don't know if the full version will be on TV on NFL Network, but NFL Plus streaming, and hopefully ESPN Plus streaming as well. I know there's going to be some streaming options out there. You know, real quick, Blue, on Carson Beck, I completely appreciate and respect everything you're saying about the fact that, you know, Miami's at a disadvantage with QB1 not being out there participating. You know, obviously it's not his fault. He's injured, of course. It still puts Miami behind the 8 ball. So, like, is there anything, because we hear, Blue, about him, you know, obviously he's going through drills, he's going through film sessions, he's talking to his teammates. Like, is there anything extra beyond that he can do to kind of get himself ready to hit the ground running once he's cleared?
I mean, he's doing everything possible. And I think that as he feels better, he's going to do more. Yeah. But you can't assimilate, you know, what happened last year at this time. And like I said, you know, when somebody asked me last year about spring, and I told them how vital it was for somebody like Cam Ward to be there from day one in January and February and right into March for spring. You know, I feel anytime you have a quarterback in the you know, especially in the situation now, as much as he could be there, you could be in the huddle, but you're not running the plays. You know, it's sort of like you could tell somebody to drive from the back seat, you know, I mean, but if they don't do it the way you want. So, you know, and I'm not going to scream and tell her, oh, they're going to lose because of this. No, they're not. It's just that it's concerning to me when your starters, like when I was looking at the secondary the other day, and I would have liked to see more of those guys are going to be starting. You know, to me, when someone goes, well, we know what O.J. Frederick could do. Yeah, but we don't know what he could do in a situation with some of the new faces. Right. You know, you got Brantley here, Poyster here. So that's my whole point. I mean, I'm not one of those guys, and Miami's not in a situation where they could say, don't worry. Yeah, well, you got to worry. You know, I mean, if we're, even you look at some of those other teams like Alabama or Ohio State, they got a lot of new faces too. So this spring is very vital. I don't care what anybody said, because it's vital for continuity, and it's what you're getting, and especially you have a new defensive coordinator, you have 4 new coaches. I mean, when someone says, well, spring is, no, you're wrong. Spring is very important. It's important because you're getting quality reps with some new faces around you. These guys that are coming in, the terminology is not the same as where they came from. So they got to pick a lot of that, those things up as well. And it's up to guys, like you said, some of those seniors or juniors and, guys up front and people like Ray, who's been on board for 3 years, and, people like that to kind of like help, with, even like when they're away from the practice setting and they're maybe hanging out and having something to eat, and, they talk football. That, and I know Mario loves that. He loves when, it's neat to be watching the NCAA basketball games, but in the middle of it, say, hey, today when you were running that route, I think what you need to do is maybe cut a little bit earlier, things like that. I mean, it's a process. And if you're a team, it's just like I always said, that people kind of like Alex, they get in this situation where, well, I don't know if he's ready to get in there. If he's wearing a uniform, he's ready to get in there. I mean, he's here for a reason, like the Pringles and guys like that. Throw them to the Wolves. Let them see how they do, because you never know. You look 3 years ago, they were down to a damn walk-on running back. So you never know the situation. So, I mean, I look at a lot of those kids, and they look like high school kids. They're still, bodies are still developing. But you look at a Malachi Toney, and you don't think he could come in and freaking dominate, then you don't know football. I mean, this kid is that type of player. I sat there and watched Chris Johnson for 2 years in agony, how he used that 4.26 speed to run up somebody's back as a kick return. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is a method to the madness. And when you take a look at a lot of these guys, Alex, I mean, they have physical ability, but do they have it up here? And that's the one thing that Coach Cristobal is so keen on, because he is that type of coach. He wants you to be mentally into things at all times. And I'm not just saying he's the only coach. I mean, I spent a lot of time during the summers, at Florida, and listened to Billy and at FSU and all these other places. I think like the Coach Golis from USF is as sharp as anybody. I mean, I listen to him, and that's why he's starting, and that's why I'm saying it's not only at Miami, but as a Miami fan, you want to see everything come together and not take anything for granted. And that's why I say, don't take this spring for granted. Everything that is done. And that's like, I get there the other day and I go, where's so-and-so? Where's so-and-so? He's hurt. To me, that's not being, that's not, and I know people are hurt all over the country, but I don't care about other people. I care what's happening here. And I know that having your quarterback who's going to be taking that snap on August 31st at home against Notre Dame, defending national runner-up, I don't care how many guys they lost, and I don't care how many, but they still have that same coaching philosophy, although they did lose Al Golden. So maybe their defensive schemes will be a little bit different. But you prepare every single day, and that's all I say. And I never take a damn thing for granted. And and because I covered a lot of these kids, and I have an opportunity, like the other day when they're coming off the field, to hang out and talk to them, like Bain and guys like that, and get into like Ray. I said, Ray, this is you. This is your year. This is your year. This is it. This is you've been in this situation 3 years, you know everything, you have physical ability. This is when you take those bubble screens 70 yards. This is when you get into that situation and do, because from a standpoint of speed, Restrepo was nowhere near what he is. So if he runs, if he could just, start learning a little bit more about patterns and how to read, he gets in the open. No one's catching him. Nobody. So those type of things like that. And you look at a lot of these guys that are in their third year, it's time, to do it, or this will be it. If you're going to progress, you can't be in the background. So
Larry Blustein is preaching right. I think he's on that 5-hour energy, which I enjoy every single morning. And when we come back, Miami's got another big recruiting weekend coming up. Plus, are the Hurricanes about to pull off a flip? You want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We're not done yet on Locked On Canes. Guys, Game Time is the only ticket app that I use because I'm always getting the best possible deals, especially last minute, and the best features right on the Game Time app. We all love watching our favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd at Miami games, witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. I love the Game Time Picks feature. With their curation, it makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. You get peace of mind with Game Time, with seat views in the app before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
I love that show from Andy Patton and Isaac Shade. We are joined here by the great Larry Blustein on Locked On Canes. So, Blue, if I'm following a possible Miami flip in Miami's favor, there's a class of 2026 offensive lineman out of Fort Myers, Joel Irvin, who was committed to Louisville, 6'6", 280-pounder, was committed to Louisville, visited Miami this past weekend, decommitted from Louisville. I wonder if the next step could be a Miami commitment. What can you tell us about Joel Irvin?
Yeah, big time kid. And, here's another guy that wasn't even on the radar a year ago at this time. Had an opportunity when I went over there to we did a camp on that side. And I'm really close with, the head coach, Sammy Sirianni. And he said, there's a kid right here. He's got to work on his footwork, but he's got the size. And then and our old boy Kelvin was kind of tipping us off on him because he's a Fort Myers graduate. Yeah. Well, Kel, who always wants to tell me how good Fort Myers is, he said, "Hey, Blue, don't sleep on this kid." And I watched him, and I like what I saw. Go watch his film. He's really nice. And I talked to Sammy, and Sammy said, this is a kid who's finally gotten it. And wouldn't be surprised, Miami's it's always been the Southwest Florida area has always been a good destination for the Hurricanes, from, Atkins, and, you look back at Jamie German and also another kid who's coming in from the Southwest Florida area, as we mentioned, the kid Johnson, who committed or who transferred to Northwestern, like everybody's transferring to Northwestern. Big kid. He was in our top 40 early on. He's progressed, I think, in the top 25. You guys need to get over to our Prep Red Zone Florida. We just updated our 2026 list. It'll be updated a couple more times, but it has a couple of other kids that are rising, a couple of Miami commitments that, we had a chance, the Waters kid who we had an opportunity to watch a little bit more. And yeah, it's, you never know what's going to happen, with a lot of these kids, but I think those type of guys, the Irvin type of player, and like you said, I had an opportunity to talk to the kid the other day, and his dad that came down from Lakeland, the kid, Habel kid, and he's basically new on the scene. But Miami seemed to like what they saw out of him. He's a defensive end. He was at Lake Gibson last year. He's originally from Wisconsin, and now he's at Lakeland High School. The kid from Servite High School, the tight end, had an opportunity, good-sized kid. They made it all. He and his dad made it all the way across the country during their spring break to come to Miami. He loves it. Miami's right there on his list with Arizona State and USC. So, and then I didn't even mention the cheat code, when you were talking about players, because I never think that I have to mention Elijah Lofton. First round NFL draft pick coming up in 2 years. Yeah. I mean, the kid's a beast. Yeah. I mean, it's and they're taking and they got to take that Maserati out of the garage this year and use him a lot, because think of all the things he could do. He can run the ball. He's shown that he can line up as an H-back, maybe a shorter tight end than you're used to, but he's really not a tight end. He's more of an H-back type of guy, and he throws the ball 65 yards in the air. So, a guy like that who I watched the other day, and he is, to me, if you're coming into the program and you're a coach, you go, hey, see number 9, just watch him. Watch the things that he does, because as well as I do from day one when he got here last year, he already looked like a junior or senior in college, So, yeah, guys like that, those are the type, like I was just saying, you could be watching the NCAA basketball or wrestling or whatever, but talk football. He's the type of guy.
I love it. Well, I appreciate your time as always. Larry Blustein.
Oh, Josh Moore, too. I just see his name.
Yeah, Josh. Yeah, I heard he had a really good practice on Saturday.
Oh, man, let me tell you something. And he's another potential cheat code. I mean, this kid, 6'4", 212, 215 pounds, growing every day. And you could watch, he just looks like a man. And Miami was very fortunate when all those people who had never watched him, and he was committed to Florida, and he's not, I don't care, let him go. No, you didn't. You got to watch these guys play before you start, kicking them in the ass, So anyway, I just saw him pop up. So,
well, I love it. Larry Blustein does an excellent job as always. Make sure you follow him on X at Prep Red Zone FL. Listen to his show on 560 WQAM. What are you on this week, Blue?
Tonight, big show. Got a mix. We are going to do talk baseball a little bit with Joe Frisaro, who's as good as they get. We'll talk about some of the prospects in Dayton-Broward County. The Hurricanes baseball team could listen to this show and use a couple of those kids. Talk a little bit of football. We'll Adam Lichtenstein will join us from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. We'll talk a little bit of Hurricanes, talk a little FAU football, and we talk of wrestling. We have the first 4-time female state champion from Florida, undefeated, 144-0 in her career, Maya Bethel from North Miami. She's going to be on with us, and also talk to the head coach from Somerset Academy, the 2A state champions. They had 10 kids place, sort of like Penn State did this last weekend. But, great show. Hope you'll listen in, and, there's a lot of good stuff going on.
And by the way, Blue, so and so everyone watching this and listening to this knows, speaking of wrestling and football, I'm going to have Ryan Moret on the show later this week on Wednesday.
State
champ. We're going to talk about his – yeah.
And it's funny, I have an argument going on with his dad, who's the principal at the school and former wrestling guy. I said, he's 290 now, and he's cutting, and you can only weigh 285. I don't see how he's going to wrestle next year.
Well, I don't want him to wrestle next year because I want him to enroll early.
I agree, but they're fighting me.
And just so people know, he's not committed to Miami, not yet. But I'm going to try to make that happen.
Well, he took a trip to Memphis State, and he's been to a few other schools, but they love Miami. I think they have an opportunity, to do some special things. And he's great. He's a great kid, 4.3 GPA. He's the total package.
Dude, I love it. Well, guys,
Principal's son.
check out. Yeah, it was just great. I mean, if I would have had better grades if I was a principal's son too. Larry Blustein, follow him at Prep Red Zone FL. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We'll talk to you again next time on another episode right here on the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.